Hello and welcome to AutoToday. My name is Dipayan and today you're joining me for the review of the Tata Altroz DCA Automatic. Now, if you're just catching up with the Tata Altroz brand, here's a quick refresher. The Altroz was launched in 2020. At the time, it was launched with only two motors, a 1.2 litre NA petrol and a 1.5 litre turbocharged diesel. Of course, in 2021, they came back with the 1.2 litre turbocharged Altroz that they call the iTurbo, and now in 2022 we have this, which is the Tata Altroz DCA. Now, the Altroz itself has always been one of the better looking cars in the segment, and in fact it's been one of the better and more engaging cars to drive as well. Now, with this DCA gearbox, Tata have done two very interesting things in my opinion. Number one, they've chosen the more expensive premium technology, a dual clutch technology that they've developed from scratch for the Altroz in particular. Number two, they've chosen to go with the naturally aspirated version of the Tata Altroz's motor for this gearbox, which is interesting considering that most of the competition have used their turbocharged motors with a DCT gearbox. Now, before we hop inside the driver's seat and tell you how much has changed in terms of driving experience and how good this DCA gearbox is, let's take a quick look at the outside. The main change on the outside is this brand new color scheme that Tata is calling Opera Blue. Everything else is almost identical except for a DCA badge on the tailgate. So now that we're in the cabin of the new Tata Altroz DCA, let's take a quick refresher of what the cabin feels like before we get to driving. Now, on the inside, it is not going to feel as premium as some of the stuff we've seen from the competition. That said, I don't think you're going to be left wanting for much. We love the way that Tata have used contrasting materials on the dash to liven it up, give it some range in terms of texture. We also love the fact that the cabin is a very spacious place to be. The glass room effect is also pretty prominent, which means that you feel like you're in a big premium size hatch, which I think is exactly what Tata wanted. Now, in terms of build quality, also the Altroz has improved on the Tatas that we've seen on the past significantly, and this makes it a nice place to be, if nothing more. Now, the big change on the inside is of course this gear console, which now has an automatic setup, which means you get a PNRD and a manual setup on the left. Aside from that, the Altroz also misses out on sports mode, but we'll get to that when we are driving. Another big miss as far as I'm concerned for a DCT enabled car is a paddle shifter even as an option, which you don't get. Of course, you do get a manual shifter as standard. Okay, so that is about it when it comes to the inside. You do get your standard range of features, including a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system from Harman with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You also get a cool glove box and climate control, which means you're more or less at par with what you get in this segment. That said, let's get to driving and see what the Altroz is really all about. Now, first impressions, it does disengage pretty quickly, but before we get into how this gearbox drives, let's talk a little bit about the spec. Now, as you know, it is only paired with the 1.2 litre naturally aspirated motor, which means you get 86 bhp and 113 Nm of torque. It is paired with the 6-speed DCA, which is a wet clutch as opposed to a dry clutch as we've seen on most other DCT gearboxes. Tata say this is to match it to Indian conditions and provide better cooling to the gearbox overall. Now, as a gearbox off the line, the DCT is pretty smooth, but when it comes to spirited driving is when it comes up lacking a little bit. I mean, the shifts are pretty precise, but they do take time to engage fully. Now, aside from that, on the go, I don't think you're really going to be left wanting with this gearbox until you push it. Now, that could also be attributed to the natural way the engine performs, especially under 3000 RPM, where you're mostly going to get a very smooth NVH free drive. Once you push it beyond that mark, some vibrations do creep in and there is a prominent noise from the engine. Otherwise, this car really drives well and is one of the more engaging cars to drive in this segment. Despite having competition like the i20 and the Baleno, I still think this is one of the better cars to drive in the segment, and that remains true with this DCA gearbox. Now, the DCA gearbox does add about 20 kgs to the total weight of the Altroz, but it's not something that you really feel when you're on the go or even when you're really pushing it. Now, this engine particularly is not meant to be revved high. In fact, the red line is as low as 6,500 RPM. But within city speeds and for cruising, it's pretty smooth. The feedback is pretty good, and it's not something, unless you're looking for a performance-oriented car, that you're going to really find lacking in any way. Now, keeping in line with Tata's aggressive pricing strategy, Tata have priced the Altroz DCA quite aggressively. Now, when we say aggressively, we mean the entry-level model of the Tata Altroz DCA is as little as 8.10 lakh ex-showroom, going up all the way to 9.90 lakh ex-showroom for the range-topping XZA Dark. Now, that said, this does put the Tata a few lakhs under the competition with a DCT gearbox. Now, for the competition with an AMT gearbox, it meets their price almost at par. Now, at those prices, the value offering from the Tata Altroz is almost undeniable. It makes a very strong case for themselves for someone looking for a budget premium hatch that has all the features and is engaging to drive. We hope you liked our review of the brand new Tata DCA. If you did, don't forget to leave a like on that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the AutoToday channel so you never miss out on any of the great automotive content that we drop every week. That's it from us. This is Didi signing off.